We're hot and we're cold. We're yes and we're no and no. This is not an ode to Katy Perry. We hate Kate. Well, we don't hate Katy Perry. She's fine. No, what we're talking about is that Pat and I are going to tell you who. This is fucking dumb, okay? It just started recording. My whole intro was just lost, so it's fine. I just saw the ticker. We're just going to start over, okay?
No.
Ready? Take two, and then I'm just going to make Zach fix this in post. Ready? Okay.
We're
hot and we're cold. We're yes and we're no. And no, this is not a tribute to Katy Perry. I mean, she's fine. It's okay, but we're not going to dedicate a show to her. No, what I mean is Patrick Chiotti and I are going to tell you who's hot and who's cold when it comes to roster spots and starter positions. Oh, and you stick around and we're going to give you our dark horse to make the team. Another Katy Perry reference. You're welcome.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up.
Pat, where we stand today, this is a really interesting Broncos team because I could see them being a playoff team. I could see them being, eligible for the first overall pick, and I can see pretty much everything in between. But as it stands today, what you and I are going to talk about and what I'm going to kick to you is certain individual players and more specifically positional battles in terms of who's going to be a starter and also who's going to make the team. So we're going to start at your position, wide receiver. Now, the top five, we assume, Pat, are pretty well in hand. Assuming Courtland Sutton doesn't get traded, it's going to be Sutton, Mims, Franklin, Reynolds, and then probably Tim Patrick. Is that a safe assumption to make?
Yeah, I think so. I think, the rookie has to stay on, right? You traded up for him. He's got to stay on. And he's probably going to have a huge part in this offense. Mims, another guy on a rookie deal.
No
special
brainer.
Team. Yeah, no brainer. Patrick, Tim's just a guy that's going to fight for that roster spot. And Sean Payton loves him. So yeah, you could probably assume that he is going to be a lock. And then Josh Reynolds, I don't see how they sign a guy like this and then
he doesn't make the team
roster. Yeah, you know what I mean? You got this guy for a reason. He's going to be a lock. So yeah, I think those guys. Sutton though, with all the trade stuff, it's still in murky water. It leans heavily towards lock, but there's still a little bit of murky water sitting there.
Right.
It's
less than 100%.
Yeah, but it's 90%. So yeah, we can say that Court's probably going to be another one of those lock guys. So the real question would be, Mario, is we know that Peyton hasn't really kept a ton of wide receivers in the past. I went back. There's a tweet from me, I think last year before the season started, talking about this. And it was a handful of times that Sean Payton keeps more than 5 receivers. He's only done it a few times in his career. So the question is, does he change that this year and keep another guy? Does he change his ways and keep 7 receivers for the first time in God knows how long? Tough to say. But I think it would be safe to assume it's 6 would be the cutoff. 6 is probably the cut.
I don't see more than 6. So here's what we're going to do. Let's just play a game where you have 2 open roster spots. And I gave you the list of guys. We're not going to run through all the receivers on the roster right now. We're trying to be realistic. We're not going to talk about a Philip Dorsett. Okay, sorry.
Well,
talk about the guys.
You stop that.
Is there going to be no Philip Dorsett slander on your timeline this evening?
Hey, you know what? And this isn't me saying that Phil would be a lock for this roster, but this is a dude who's going to fight for his spot. And the special teams aspect is going to be there, but no Phil Dorsett slander. None.
Okay. So glad we got that out of the way. So we already talked about Philip Dorsett. We've dedicated 30 seconds to him. I think that's more than enough, and we never need to mention him again. I'm going to give you a wide receiver name. You are going to tell me hot, cold, or you just give me like a little lukewarm, okay? So we're just going to run through these, give me a little breakdown of each one of these guys, and then when we've concluded, So there's 4 guys that we're going to mention right now. Where
Yeah.
we've concluded, I want you to give me one, just one, that makes this active roster, okay? First guy that we're going to start with is Brandon Johnson. Young Hung Johnson.
Hot with a capital H-O-N-T. This is a dude. Man, Brandon Johnson is a dude, and I would fight for this guy to be on this roster with every ounce of my strength. To me, Brandon Johnson is a guy that you could play as an X, you could play him as a Z, you can play him inside.
He played a little bit of everywhere last year, didn't he?
Yeah, and a guy who will hustle on special teams. Like he is just a dog, and he can find the end zone too. Really, really fun to watch. Really like watching him kind of come along has been awesome. And I feel like he's been a student of the game because his effort, every single play is great. Like blocking, the effort's there. So I think that this is a dude who is definitely hot. Is he going to make it out of the rest of these guys? Probably, but we'll see. But I would say right now, really, really hot.
Yeah, I'm hot on Brandon Johnson too, and I have been since day one. He was one of these guys that was going to make the active roster as an undrafted rookie had he not suffered that high ankle sprain. I believe it was in Buffalo, before the 2022 season, right before I think it was the last preseason game. Had that unfortunate injury. They released him, and then as soon as he was eligible to come back, like once he was healthy, they re-signed him. So I know it's a different camp. It's not necessarily one of Sean Payton's guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was second on the team in receiving touchdowns last year. It's just like he filled in for Court when Court was hurt. He filled in for Jerry Jeudy when Jerry Jeudy was hurt. He played a little bit in the slot, and I think that's what gives him the big advantage, Pat. Like, you look at the guys that we're considering roster locks, and they kind of have a definitive position. There's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of their game. I think in terms of versatility, Brandon Johnson might be the most versatile wide receiver that's currently on this roster in terms of like not only what wide receiver positions he can play, but from a special teams aspect as well. So next guy, go ahead.
Well, hang on. You were correct. He does have the second most touchdowns on the team, but he also had the second highest yards per catch on the team. He can do it all, man. Great, just great across the board. I love this dude. And the pedigree. Chad Johnson relative, like
cousins.
The footwork is there, and you can see that they work together as well. So it's really awesome. I think he's a fantastic player.
I actually told Brandon that he needs to change his last name to Ocho Nueve. Anyway.
No.
Next player that we are going to discuss, honestly, a personal favorite of mine, and I just don't see him making the team, and it's going to hurt me because he's got one of the best first names of all time. Lil Jordan Humphrey. This is kind of like a Lil Jon situation where it's like Lil Jon wasn't little, right? Like not Lil Jon the rapper, Little John, okay? The OG Little John. Lil Jordan is a very large human being, okay? So it makes his name even more better. But we're not going to get bogged down into that. In terms of actual ability, hot, lukewarm, or cold on Lil Jordan Humphrey, who had arguably the top highlight play from last season.
Man, simply because of this is another guy who just gives effort. He's just a baller. And a guy who I threw in as a name to be that like hybrid tight end with the state of our tight end room right now. So I talent wise, like this dude's a scheme fit. He's a good dude. I would say he's hot in my book. It would be really hard, especially with the knowledge of the system and the experience in the system, and him technically really being a vet. Like he's still a young dude, but he's been around the league. It would be really tough for me to not see Lil Jordan Humphrey on the roster come week one. But that being said, I do think that he's a guy that will stick around. He's a guy that, like, if Sean Payton's like, listen, I need you to get on the practice squad. We're going to waive you, but I need you to come back and be on the practice squad. I feel like he would be one of those dudes that would stick around because of the loyalty. I mean, he was an outside receiver at Texas, and then comes in and can't really find that groove as an outside receiver, and really made his name in between the numbers and as that hybrid tight end kind of guy. So hot for me for LJ. Hot for me.
It would be hot for me if we lived in a world like Madden where we could just switch his position to tight end, and then he would be an absolute matchup nightmare. But here's kind of like the comparison that my brain is drawing. So Bronco fans are very familiar with Cody Latimer, familiar with this game.
Mm-hmm.
Cody came back after not playing for several years, and actually these last 2 seasons, the XFL and the USFL converted to tight end. Now, and again, apples and oranges, they're 2 completely different leagues. But you saw a guy with Cody Latimer, not obviously prototypical tight end size, but he was able to block enough and do enough, and he was an absolute matchup nightmare for linebackers and for safety. So if we were to exist in that realm, I would be hot on Lil Jordan Humphrey, because the depth of tight end on this team is a little frightening. So if you were to somehow move Lil Jordan or the next guy that we're going to talk about to tight end, I would be a little bit more hot on him, but just because of the current status of the roster, and because they have so many similar guys, like so many big-bodied receivers, like a Lil Jordan Humphrey, who are already making this team, it cools me off, and I'm a little bit lukewarm on him. Now, the guy that I was building to, 7th-round pick Devon Vele, and we've talked a lot about him. In fact, when we had Ryan Edwards on the show like a month and a half ago, he was like the guy that Ryan Edwards had singled out of who he personally saw at rookie minicamp. Not Troy Franklin, not Chris Abrams-Drain, not Audric Estime. It was Vele who had singled out. Now, let's get past the part where he's basically the same age as Tim Patrick and just focus on how you feel about him personally, Pat. Are you hot, lukewarm, or cold on Devon Vele? Who's in line for AARP really any day now.
We could all get AARP right now. No, I think that for me, it's leaning more towards lukewarm. I think he's a good enough blocker, but like, is he truly big enough to be tight end, like that hybrid tight end type? Man, I think use him more as an X. Like as an X that you're going to stretch the field with. The thing is he's such a good deep threat. Like he's such a good contested catch target that it's like you kind of almost want to keep him for that. But if you're going to have Cortland Sutton, you're going to have Tim Patrick on this roster, you're going to have 2 bigger body guys. But where he could make his money is special teams. So that's kind of where I'm like lukewarm on it. He's an older guy, but they used a draft pick on him too. So it's like, are they really not going to keep him around for some, like Sean Payton's got to know what he's doing. If he's going to take like a 27-year-old guy with a draft pick. So there's got to be,
he's the same age as you basically. Pat. He just got drafted to the NFL.
Yeah. No, lukewarm for me. I would love the deep threat stuff, but like you have Troy Franklin as well. So it's like, what's the,
what does he bring?
Yeah. What else are you going to bring? And special teams is that answer, right? Is Troy Franklin going to be a big special teamer? No, he's a smaller dude. You don't want him out there taking unnecessary shots. Vele could do that. Vele could absolutely go out there and be a gunner or, on the punt coverage team. Like he could absolutely do that. But it's just Troy Franklin's such an explosive piece. You're probably, there's got to be a plan there though. So lukewarm.
The only thing keeping me from being completely cold on this guy is the fact that he is like a Tim Patrick clone. Okay. Like all joking aside, pretty much the same height, pretty much the same weight, pretty much the same 40 time coming out of school. I think people forget like how freakishly fast and athletic Tim Patrick was back in the day, despite the injuries that he went through. And as if that wasn't enough, Pat, because Tim Patrick changed his number to 12, Vele has 81. And so I'm sure there are going to be plenty of fans who have not kept up on offseason stuff. They're going to see Devon Vele and assume that is Tim Patrick. For me, that's the only saving grace for me because I'm the leader of the Tim Patrick fan club. I think that as long as he stays healthy, he's going to lead the team in receptions and yards and touchdowns. That's how much I love Tim Patrick and by extension, Devon Vele. But if you're telling me like, you're trying to convince me what kind of role he's going to have, he's probably going to be a practice squad guy. Like you said, they clearly spent a draft pick on him for a reason. And maybe they want to keep him around just to be like a Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick type of clone in case something happens with one of those guys. But as it stands right now, it's practice squad, if anything.
Yeah.
Last guy that I want to talk about. And I think he's the guy that maybe some Bronco fans forgot about because he got hurt early in camp last year. He flashed as a rookie, same class as Brandon Johnson, an undrafted guy. Jalen Virgil, who I've heard from a number of the players, Pat, is actually the fastest dude on the team. Now, he is almost a complete year removed from his injury. We assume that he's 100%. He's not on the PUP list, anything like that. How are we feeling about Jalen Virgil?
Look, I remember watching him in the preseason before he got hurt. Really liked what I saw. Definitely a speed threat. I don't know. With the way Peyton's offense works, I don't know how often Bo Nix is really going to be taking those deep shots. On special teams, though, he's a good return threat. If you kind of want to limit Marvin Mims to just being a punt returner instead of a kick returner, Virgil would probably be one of those guys that you could probably use. But on the flip side, they're also talking about using more running back type guys as returners, and Marvin Mims still kind of fits that size and area, and he's a good returner. So why change that? It's really tough for me to see a spot for Jalen Virgil. There's just so many dudes, and I do think that he would be a solid receiver on this team. I think the route running is there. I just would have to see more after the injury because, you miss an entire year, probably still very fast and straight line speed, but like, where's show me the cuts on posts, on ins, on comebacks, like show me that speed can still translate even after the injury and that you're still good. If he comes out and balls out in the preseason, like those, 2 preseason games, I mean, he could make a real case for himself, but probably on a different team. I think he definitely deserves to be on a roster. I think that the talent is there, but you're in a tough spot. You've really got to outshine a lot of dudes, and you're going to be fighting against Troy Franklin, who does have track speed as well. So like you're essentially going to be in that same role. Troy Franklin just has a little more size. For me, it's going to be cold. Like talent wise, he's great, but for this roster and this exercise, cold.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and you said pretty much everything there was to say. They have 2 guys similar to him who we assume are marketably better than him as it stands. So yeah. NFL talent, just not on this NFL roster. So of these 4 guys, Pat.
Yeah.
Who are you keeping on this active roster? You can only choose one. Who are you rocking with?
Dude, the first guy we talked about, Brandon Johnson. And that hurts my heart because I really do love Lil Jordan.
I know you love some wide receivers.
Dude, and Lil Jordan can block, man. He is not afraid to throw himself out there, but Brandon isn't either. So like, I love both of these dudes. I hope that there's a way that Sean Payton hears my prayers and keeps both of them on the roster. But yeah, dude, because like tight end depth aside, like I would keep Lil Jordan just because of what I can do in that offense. Like he's
just such a likable guy too.
And like the yak is there. He was like our 3rd best receiver after the catch last season.
Yeah.
Dude, get the ball in this guy's hands.
We're both rocking with Brandon Johnson. There it is.
Yeah.
Next position might be a little bit trickier. We just have 3 names that I want to discuss. And this isn't who's going to make the team. This is who's going to start opposite of Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
They brought in Levi Wallace, Riley Moss is there, and Damari Mathis. Those are the 3 names that we are considering right now. Patrick Surtain has one side completely covered. In the slot is Jaquan McMillan, and they're just going to ride him as long as they can. And, hopefully re-up him at the 11th hour, and they're just going to get insane value for him. But for the time being, we have to find a cornerback to play opposite of Patrick Surtain. So they brought in Levi Wallace. He's a little bit of a journeyman. It felt like the Moreau signing last year.
Yeah.
Of course, I would say Levi Wallace, probably a little bit better of a pro, has been in better situations. Like he's played opposite of a cornerback one before. But it's not like it's not going to be groundbreaking. As a Bronco fan, you hope that Riley Moss balls out in camp and he wins that spot. Or Damari Mathis shows what he did the second half of his rookie year and he wins that job. Like, ideally, Levi Wallace is not your number 2 cornerback for the entirety of the season. So let's start with Levi Wallace, Pat. With you personally, hot, lukewarm, or cold on Levi Wallace?
Oh, dude. You're not going to like this. Okay. I
have no strong opinion about Levi Wallace.
No, I think that, like, I just don't think it's going to get it done. Like, I really don't think it's going to get it done. Levi Wallace has been like he's been like a second option guy for,
he's a name
pretty much. Yeah. Like he's just been a dude, but it's not great. He allows like a 57, almost 58% catch rate. Not like 12 yards a catch allowed. It's, I don't know. I don't love it. But he is a veteran. He is coming into the system with kind of a fresh start kind of feel. It's going to be really tough. Like you're going to get thrown out a lot. And can you handle that right out of the gate? But I mean, that really goes for all 3 of these guys. Like Riley Moss hardly saw the field last year, just towards the end of the season, and didn't really get a great look at him on defense. And then Damari Mathis got absolutely thrashed last season, and then is benched and really doesn't come back to see the field. So you're going to get thrown out a lot either way. Can any of these guys handle it? Is there still another option that we're not thinking of here? But
let me ask you this then. Let me pose it this way. Of these 3 guys, who is the hottest? Because it feels like you're kind of lukewarm to cold.
I'm almost cold on all of them.
Who's got the hottest temperature out of the 3?
Okay, the one that has to be the hottest. I'm gonna get roasted for this. The one that has to be the hottest is Riley Moss, and
it has to be.
It has to be because we're seeing what like all the testing and stuff for Cooper DeJean, right? We saw all of that. Like the word was that Riley Moss was just as athletic, like a little bit behind. If that's the case, this is a great thing for the Broncos. If he can come out and like show that he took that rookie season seriously and like really studied his ass off and is getting down on his technique, and he comes out into camp and balls, hey, good for us. We done good, right? But as of right now, I'm just kind of cold on all of them. But Riley's probably got to be the hottest.
And here's the thing that I want everybody to keep in mind in terms of Riley Moss, something that a lot of people aren't going to consider, but a massive improvement from rookie year to what we're going to see this year. He's got a brand new number, Patrick. Okay, first and foremost, quarterbacks cannot be 37. 37 is a slow number. 37 is a big running back number, which is why Audric Estime has it right now. It's a safety number. It's a safety number. It's a fullback number, okay? It is not the number of an athletic corner. It's not. He switched to 21, Pat. 21 is a much faster, more aesthetically appealing number. And I know that I'm being a little bit hyperbolic and silly, but honest to God, like if I'm putting on a jersey every single day, it doesn't matter the position, okay? But especially like corner, wide receiver, one of these guys, like you have to have a lot of self-confidence to play this kind of position. I feel way more confident in myself if I'm going out there with 21 compared to 37. 37, I can feel the weight of that number slowing me down.
Here's the thing, like with Riley Moss in regards to this, and this was the last time that we actually got to see him play football, okay? He was targeted 60 times and allowed 30 catches. So 50%. Not bad.
Not great.
But not bad.
But not
11.4 yards per reception. Okay. And an NFL passer rating of 82.7 when thrown to. So, but he's an athlete. Let's see if he can go out there and ball.
Is he an athlete like an actual athlete, or is he just like athletic for being a white dude playing corner?
I mean, dude, if you're 6'1", almost 195 pounds, you're running a 4.4.
I just want to make sure.
Gotta be an athlete,
make sure. Like I want it to be fair and make sure that everybody is graded on the same scale and that there's not a curve. Okay?
There's definitely
an athlete is an athlete, and I just want to make sure that he's athletic in terms of being a cornerback and not being Jason Sehorn. That's all.
Oh, wow. Can we talk about the flow though?
The flow is gorgeous. It's fantastic. Look, in terms of aura and in terms of swag, like
if he's 21,
Riley Moss has got it. Okay,
if he's 21,
he's got it. But now he just needs to go out and do it. He's got it. You need to go do it. Now we're gonna wrap up with a position that I know is very near and dear to your heart, and we got to get this going because I'm sure you, like me, want to go play NCAA 25. I closed the show with Seegers the same way last week, and he's like, let's wrap this up. So let's go quickly. Yeah. The center position battle, and I know it's near and dear to your heart because you have been Team Alex Forsyth since day one. You have pushed him more adamantly and more vehemently than anybody else, but just so everyone knows, right now, Wattenberg is kind of penciled in as the number one center. We won't know until camp actually starts this week, kind of where guys, like what reps guys are taking. So Wattenberg, Forsyth, and then Mustafa was the guy they signed in the offseason. I already know how you feel about him, but just for the sake of argument, those are your three options at center. And I think the reason that this is going to be so important, Pat, your entire offensive line is paid. Left tackle, paid. Left guard, super paid now. Shout out Quinn Miners, deserved it. Right guard, paid. Right tackle, paid. So everybody around this dude is getting banged except for the center. And that is why he is going to be the linchpin. Lloyd Cushenberry was fine. He was solid. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad. He was just kind of a guy. So if that's the standard that you are hoping to uphold at the center position for this team, it's very doable and obtainable. So which of these guys, if you'll humor me, are you hottest on right now? And tell me about why you like Alex Forsyth so much.
Yeah, it's Alex Forsyth. And here's the reason why. Look, he was probably one of the nastiest. Yeah, throw up that O. He was probably one of the nastiest blockers at center in last year's draft. I know the injury thing kind of made him drop, but this was a dude who was operating one of the best offensive lines in the country. He's a dude that put tremendous film out there on several top picks in that Georgia game, the season opener when Oregon got killed, but that offensive line was blocking their ass off. This is a dude that in almost 1,700 pressures, or 1,700 snaps in college, 13 pressures allowed. 13. That's fucking insane. 3 sacks his entire career. 3 years as a starter, he gave up 1 sack each year. That's absolutely nuts. This dude can command the line of scrimmage. He got the chance to sit for a whole year and just watch Lloyd Cushenberry and just soak up all of this stuff. This guy is a student of the game. He was one of the dudes who told them, go get Bo Nix. That is why I'm hottest on this dude. And I've seen Luke Wattenberg block. He's not, it's not there. For me, it's not there.
He's a guy.
He's like, I watched him live get his shit pushed in by Chris Jones with one arm, and that was enough for me. I was like, okay.
That settled it.
Yeah. But Alex Forsyth just understands how to command the offensive line. Communication skills are clearly there. He's a dude that anchored, like I said, one of the best offensive lines in the country. And he's been working with the offensive line coach for a whole year, almost 2 full off seasons now. This is the guy that everybody should be the hottest on. And if he can take charge this is, 6'4", 312. He's not a small dude. Mustafa does not have a ton of starting experience. He's not the biggest dude. Wattenberg's gotten his shit pushed in. I think Alex Forsyth is the best out of these 3. I'll stand by that. If he can command this offensive line at the same level or even just a little bit better than Lloyd Cushenberry did, this offensive line's about to go the fuck off this year. Trust and believe.
Now I'm really excited for Alex Forsyth. I never thought that I would be so excited for a center, and you just have that effect and you do that to me. Last thing that we're going to get to before we wrap it up, give me your dark horse player of who you think is going to make this roster. So obviously everybody that's familiar with this team knows that their track record of having undrafted free agents make the team, it's well documented. Now, you don't necessarily have to pick one of those guys, but who's maybe like a bottom of the roster guy or not a household name that people are familiar with that you want to turn their attention to, or it wouldn't surprise you if come week 1 in Seattle, they are on that 53-man roster.
Okay. This is going to be rough, bro. Bo Nix. Just kidding. No, probably, honestly, Dondre Tillman, the guy they signed from the UFL. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if this dude.
Have you watched any of his film?
Nasty.
Like, I know it's the USFL, but that dude could go.
Dude, he went crazy, and he's a big dude.
He's been big there for a few seasons, and you kind of wonder, like, how has he not gotten an opportunity before now that you actually, like, watch his game?
So I'm just excited. Like, I don't know how they would use him because he's listed as an outside linebacker, but, like, he's almost like a 4-3 D end. So, like, I just, like, I'm kind of curious to see where they'll use him in camp. Like, are they going to put him in with the D linemen? Or are they going to keep him as like an outside guy? Because realistically, he'd be fighting against Ronnie Perkins and Darrell Nchami. So, like, if he's fighting against, I think it'd be different if he's fighting against those guys rather than fighting against like Jordan Jackson and Elijah Garcia. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be different. So I want to see how they use him. But yeah, that's my dark horse guy. I think he can make the roster. That'd be a lot of fun.
A guy that
I'll get a jersey. God damn it.
Okay.
I'll get a jersey.
After you get the Alex Forsyth jersey, right?
Oh.
Since we're basically the Denver Ducks now, like, you have 3 jerseys to buy.
The Denver Ducks. Yo, if anybody out there can make a custom Denver Ducks jersey, I'll DM me.
We don't do that here.
Let's talk about it.
One guy that I'm really looking forward to in camp, and it pains me to say this because he went to Nebraska, and as a CU alumnus, I hate to give praise to any Nebraska person, but I'm really high on Omar Brown. And let me tell you why.
Okay.
He's a fantastic athlete. I think he is going to be one of these guys that kind of pops when you watch him in camp. Like, he's faster than he looks. He's stronger than he looks. He's incredibly versatile. And if we're looking at this safety position, you, for the most part, know what you're going to get out of PJ Locke. You, for the most part, know what you're going to get out of Brandon. But, Caden Stearns, he has to stay healthy. I have faith in it. I think I had heard that he's going to be cleared in about 2 to 3 weeks. It's not surprising that he started on the pup. But after the way the last 2 seasons went, it's like, he's going to have to show that he can stay healthy. And if he is healthy, we know what to expect from Caden Stearns. Yeah. After those 3 guys, though, like, I'm not a big believer in JL Skinner. I think he had a lot of fantastic college film where he just laid the wood, but that's not really the kind of safety that this Vance Joseph defense wants and needs, okay?
Yeah.
And Delaren Turner-Yell is like, he has a lot of value as a special teamer, and that is where it begins and ends for me.
Yeah.
So enter Omar Brown, who can play that box safety position if he needs to. He can play the center field safety position if he needs to. He can even play a little bit of slot corner. So because of his athleticism and his versatility, that's the guy that I'm going to be watching to make the roster as an undrafted free agent / guy that you might not have heard of, where when you're looking at the final roster, you're like, who's what Brown? Who is this guy? And you look him up and you're like, oh, he went to Nebraska. I didn't think that they ever produced anything worth a damn, but turns out he's pretty good.
Hey, Adrian Martinez got to work out with the Seahawks today. All right.
Hey, Adrian Martinez was balling in the USFL, okay?
Hey, he was balling.
All right, Patrick, we got to go. I have to go continue my road to glory. Freshman year's in the books. Oh, Kennesaw State.
Oh,
but we started as a 2-star quarterback recruit.
Who gives a hoot?
Kennesaw State. They don't give a hoot. Kennesaw State does.
Oh,
yeah, so
man.
Freshman year is over. Okay. Conference USA Player of the Year. Won some sort of weird bowl game. It was like the Bahama Bowl against South Alabama. Transferred to CU. We are currently 5-0, ranked 9 in the country. And your boy is number 3 in Heisman voting. Thank you very much.
Trump?
We're going for 3 natties in a row.
We're ranked 9th. Should be ranked first.
Should be ranked first and a half.
The fake media polls. The fake college football polls, they're the worst. We all know.
Anybody who says that we're outside of the top 3, it's fake news. They're lying. Okay. You can't trust them. They're the best team in college football by far. We could split our team into 2 teams, and both of those teams would be better than any team that you have. Anyway,
lazy Dan Lanning at it again. Lazy Lanning, we call him.
Is that racist? No. Anyway, Lanning. Pat, I know you do a fantastic show over there with the Chris Harris Strap Jr. Why don't you go ahead and plug that? Let the people know where they can take in that delicious content.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Patrick Coyote. You can also find the show on the @Believe Network. Chris and I, we're finishing up our roster breakdown series this week. It's gonna be really fun. We're about to have Jake Plummer come on the show. Broncos legend, my childhood quarterback, Jake the Snake.
That dude is the best. He's the absolute
cannot
best.
wait to talk to him, man. It's going to be a great conversation. We had Tatum Bell on the roster breakdown series. We had Derek Wolf on the roster breakdown series. It's been awesome. So Believe in the Broncos with Chris Harris Jr. on the Believe Network. Go check that out. It's awesome.
I'm starting to believe. My name is Mario Vitanzi. That handsome bastard is Patrick Coyote, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody. Love you. Goodbye. Have a good one. See you later. Oh, wait, no, we got to hit this thing.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hit.